Moschberger.
Wow, very dramatic.
Cori is a clinical coordinator of senior services, a master of social work, a licensed clinical social worker. She's been in the field since 1999 and graduated from the University of Illinois in Chicago. So,
Awesome. Welcome.
Hi. Hi. Looks like you guys have had a good day so far.
Yes.
Good. Good. So I was invited to talk about kind of the how-to of what you guys have been talking about, what you need to do. You know, what needs to change inside the way we're thinking, inside the way we view ourselves. So I'm going to start there, and then we'll do a couple of little practical things. But I wanted to start with a little poem that I found because I loved it, and I thought it was really appropriate for today. So it is called "Don't Change the Way You Look, Change the Way You See." I don't have crow's feet. I have happy, happy memories of laughing with friends until the tears flowed. I don't have frown lines. I have the marks of my frustration and confusion, which I battled through, smiling in the end. I'm not going gray. I have shimmering highlights of wisdom dashed throughout my silver hair. I don't have scars. I have symbols of the strength I was able to find when life got tough. I don't have stretch marks. I have the marks of growth and the marks of motherhood, my womanly evolution. I'm not fat. I bear the evidence of a life filled with abundance, blessings, and good times. I'm not just forgetful. I have a mind so full of stories, memories, and moments, there is scarce room to hold much else. I am not old. I am blessed with a life of great length, something not everyone can say. Don't change the way you look, my friend. Change the way you see. Change the way you see.
Oh, like that. Yeah.
Very good.
Yes.
And then where can we find that?
Yeah.
You know what? It popped up on my Facebook, and I took a screenshot of it.
See it
so
again.
I can send it to them, and they can.
Oh,
Yeah,
that'd
that'd
be
be
great,
good.
so we can grab it off the website or off the Facebook page.
Okay.
I
It's
love
called. It
that.
looks like Donna Ashworth,
Okay, that's good.
and I have a From To the Woman on Amazon, and it has the link on here. So I'll send that over to them to get to you guys. But that's what I have. Okay, so I feel like you guys have already sort of started where I wanted to start with you, which well, let me tell you who I am first, I guess. Now that would be helpful. I am a clinical social worker right now. I'm in a private practice called Barrington Behavioral Health and Wellness. I don't know if you've seen us. We have the yellow butterfly. That's us. So we have 3 locations, and one of our specialties is senior services. And so when I came into the practice almost 10 years ago, I had never worked with seniors before. I'd spent most of my career working in the nonprofit sector with women. And I was always a program person. I'm a great implementer, not a big visionary, great implementer. And my boss said, I want to start a program for seniors. Her mother and aunt and grandmother had all needed home care. And she said, I want to be able to go to seniors in their homes to serve their needs and their families. And I said, I have no idea if I'll like working with seniors, but I can start a program. That's no problem. And so I started seeing seniors, many of whom had dementia and other chronic illnesses, and loved it. And the program has since grown, and so we see, we have a team of social workers, we see seniors in their homes, residential communities, memory care, assisted living, skilled nursing, all of that. And so I've spent the last 10 years with seniors and their families, and I feel like everything that I'm gonna share with you today, I learned from them. None of this is from me. It has all been from what I have learned in working with my seniors and seeing who is really struggling in the latter years of their life and who is really thriving in the latter years of their life, and what is the difference between those two. So I'm 45, and I feel like I have had to start applying these concepts now, right? I can't wait until I'm 70 to try to start applying concepts to aging. I'm aging. Right, at 38, I had to start wearing reading glasses. Right now, I like practically can't see without them. At 40, I started having issues with my feet. I went to my doctor and was like, well, what is going on? And he was like, well, you're 40. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay,
Wow.
fantastic, right? I had more injuries last year than I think I've ever had in my entire life combined. And so I'm already aging, right? We are all aging from the time that we're born. And I think that we don't think about it because when we're young, we're young, right? It's hard to put ourselves in a different position in life. And so working with my seniors has given me such a great just opportunity to obviously learn from them and just get to know them. I love them. And Also, I also work with a lot of cognitive disabilities, which is also another population I never have worked with before, primarily adults. But so I've gotten a really good sense of working with chronic conditions, which is actually what aging is. Right? It is a chronic condition. We are all going to have it. It is not going to go away, and it is going to progress. So maybe we could call it something more positive, like a continuous progression of change. But this is something that is never going to go away. And what I've learned in working with chronic conditions is that we have a really hard time, particularly you guys were talking about cultures before. In our culture, when you get sick, you fight, right? You go to the doctor, you take medicine, you do everything you can to get better. That's what you're going to do. You're going to get better. And if doctor doesn't work, you're going to go to another doctor, and they're going to help you get better. Even if we have cancer and we know it's going to kill us, we still fight it, right? And we fight to get better. And that's great. It's fantastic. I love that we have, all the things that we have at our fingertips in our Western culture. But when you have a chronic condition or a continuous process of change, you can't fight it and fix it, right? It doesn't go away. It's not going to change in the way that you want it to, which is to go back to what was before it began, right? And so you have to learn how to accept it and then figure out how to manage it. How do you work with it? Okay, so the first part, this acceptance piece, you guys were already kind of talking about this. So in the therapeutic world, we call this cognitive behavioral therapy. You guys a little bit familiar with the term? Yes. So basically, cognitive behavioral therapy is you use your mind to change the way you feel. So the way that I was trained, I think, is the best example someone's ever given me in terms of what does this mean, is the trainer said, if I told you to tell me about a time when you felt happy, you could do that. If I said, tell me about a time when you felt sad, you could do that. Tell me about a time when you felt mad, you could do that. If I said, feel angry right now, what would you have to do?
Cringe your body or something, like make a face.
Would that make you feel angry?
No, I'd have to think about something that was really going to make me angry.
You have to think about something to make you feel angry,
Thoughts
right?
and feelings.
You have to think about it. So yeah, you could try like with your body, but if you're not thinking of something, you could be like butterflies and fairies, right? So your body definitely plays a role in all of it, for sure, the actions that you take. But we think that our feelings are automatic, and it's actually our thoughts that are automatic. And they're going to come into our mind like, oh my gosh, I'm going to deal with my feet for the next however long I live, right? That's okay. That kind of thought can come into my mind. Now what do I do with that thought? Do I dwell on that? Do I stay in that space? Where do I go with it, right? So this process of what you guys were talking about before, really, you guys called it embracing it. I would say in therapy, we call that accepting, right? We're aging. We just are. There's nothing we can do to change that. All we can do is accept it or embrace it and decide what we want to do with it. And so what I have seen from the seniors that I have worked with is there are really 3 things that make a significant difference in how this plays out for us. Right? So once I embrace it, once I say, okay, I'm aging, now what? Right, so I had this conversation with my mom the other day, who's 70. My grandmother's 92, and my mom's caring for her. She has pretty progressed dementia at this point. And I forget what we were talking about, but she said, we were talking about aging somehow, and she said, well, I'm resistant to aging. And I was like, well, you need to stop that. Because I'm not dealing with that for another 20 years. You're going to make yourself miserable, you're going to make everyone else miserable. No. So actually when I posted this session on my Facebook, I told them when we talked, my mom was like, can I attend? My mom's in North Carolina, so she couldn't actually attend. I said, yeah, Mom, I can give you the talk later. She's like, okay, well, when can you give it to me? I was like, okay, well, after the presentation when I actually give the talk, okay? So I was glad she was, and then when we hung up, she said, thank you for the pep talk. And I was like, you mean the one where I yelled at you for like 10 minutes? And she's like, well, I needed to hear it. I'm like, you're very gracious. Right, so I feel like, think about how you feel about, what do you think about aging right now? Do you resist it? Do you fear it? Do you accept it? Where do you feel like you're at? Does anyone want to just
Today
share?
I'm excited, but that's today.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know about, but I have a lot of cool things that I wouldn't have been able to do when I was younger that I'm very excited about
Okay.
right now.
Good.
I feel it.
Fear it?
I don't want to be old and sick and lonely, and on Facebook, oh, blah, 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 people are alone and they're old and they live by themselves and everybody's young and beautiful at work. I'm still trying to work and, you know.
Yeah. Okay.
In your picture, you were young and beautiful, and I said, what is she gonna understand about me getting old?
That's sweet. That's sweet. That picture is almost 10 years old. I need to update it. I just haven't. Other thoughts?
Well, I have a thought, but it's not quite in line with what's going on. I always said, because, okay, my sister Judy, and I always say, I'm 34. I'm 34, I'm not gonna let my body, like, tell me otherwise, and just keep going. And it's actually been working.
Okay. Hey, if that line of thinking works and your body aligns with that, I mean, have at that. Great. If you
Like,
can-
you have to keep exercising, you have to keep moving, you can't be like, oh, I'm getting older, don't fear it. It's like, I'm not, you know, but,
So that,
It works
I
for
feel
me.
like that works until your body disagrees.
well, my body is fighting a little bit.
Okay.
I'm telling you.
And
no.
so then, this is good for you because it'll give you the sort of another way to accept it, right? So you've accepted it by fighting it to the point of like, I'm gonna keep my body healthy and strong. I'm gonna keep doing all the things that I can, which I think is fantastic. And then there comes a point where your body's like, yeah, sorry about that.
And then I'll be, okay, then I'm 44.
Okay, that works, yeah.
So I mostly I'm accepting of, you know, where I'm at, and sometimes when my body is talking to me, then I'm not so much, you know, I'm kind of fighting it.
Yeah.
And, you know, the knees or, you know, something's happening with the shoulder or something like that, so.
It's
how
called
do you-
mind-body.
Yeah,
Yes.
so,
Right.
yeah, so how do you find that kind
The
of that
balance.
sweet spot?
So I would say it's not about not fighting for, once you've accepted the fact that I'm aging, now it's what do I need to fight for?
Right.
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 But it's not fighting the fact that I'm aging.
Right,
Right.
right,
I am aging,
right.
right? It's accepting I'm aging, but now, okay, now what do I need to fight for to keep, and we're gonna go to what those three things are. Yes, last one.
Oh,
Go
you
ahead.
know, no, I liked what you'd started with, which is really like the acceptance, now what can I do? Because I do think that's part of it, right, as we age, and I was thinking about being, like, just physically, because as I've gotten older and I run and I get injuries, there's a process of, like, accepting those and then being the best I can be at that time, and that's what feels good. Like, I don't compare myself to where I was, I try very hard, I shouldn't say don't, compare myself to where I was 10 years ago. I'm trying to be at, like, the level I'm at as best as I can, you know, and that feels good, because then it's like, I'm gonna like, I'm not giving up. That's part of my feeling, but I'm also not getting to a point where I'm like depressed because I'm not where I was.
Yes.
So I feel like there's a balance there,
Absolutely.
you know,
So I would say the mantra that I use that aligns exactly with what you're saying is I'm gonna do everything I can until I can't anymore, and then I'm gonna find something different.
Right, just
That
keep
I
changing
can
it.
do,
Right.
right? Which is gonna change, which is one of the biggest things that I've seen with seniors really, I can't do that anymore, so now I do nothing.
Right, extreme,
Right.
right.
Or I no longer have the mobility that I once had, and so I had one senior who, so sad, he was an orthopedic surgeon, his wife had died, you know, a couple years earlier, he was just severely depressed, and he loved going to Cubs games. I said, go to a Cubs game, let your kids take you in a wheelchair. We'll put a brace on your leg, people think you broke your leg, as if it wasn't obvious that he was an old man, right? We'll put a brace on your leg, it's fine, no, I'm not getting in a wheelchair. Okay, well then sit at home.
Right.
You can still go enjoy the Cubs game.
Right.
But you have to accept the fact that it doesn't look like it did when you were 40
Right.
or 50 or whatever that is. So here's my three, this is my own little personal, three things that I've learned from my seniors. The three things that make a difference in how we age, and if we're going to age well, since we are all stuck aging, is community, mobility, and activity. And we'll talk about those. Community, mobility, and activity. So by community, I mean people in your life, right? And I think COVID taught us a very hard lesson in terms of what isolation can do to our mental health and physical health. And P.S., our mental health, you were talking about the mind-body connection, this is a little soapbox of mine, so I won't stay on it very long. Our mental health is completely intertwined with our physical health. Think about how you feel when you have a cold, right? Suddenly you're like, oh, your body feels it, right? Think about how your body feels when your heart gets broken, right? But now our heart, our literal heart, has nothing to do with our emotions, but it hurts. Like it physically hurts us when we get our heart broken. right? And so same thing with all these chronic conditions, right? When I work with someone who has chronic depression or chronic anxiety, generally they've got other stuff going on physically, and vice versa. They've got chronic pain or another chronic condition, then their emotions are out of whack, right? So this is, how do we manage this? You guys familiar with the Spoon's theory of chronic pain? The Spoon's theory of chronic pain is, I don't know why she picked spoons, but you can look it up. I can't recall the woman's name right now who created it. But basically it's, what do you have in the tank for today? So she says, how many spoons do I have? Each morning I get up and I ask myself, how am I feeling? How many spoons do I have for a day? If I have 5 spoons and I have 20 things on my list, I maybe need to reprioritize, right? If I have 20 spoons, then maybe I can do those 20 things. But then maybe tomorrow I'm only gonna have 3, right? And so in that management, that's specific to chronic pain, where you're managing that condition, because we can't fix it, we can't take it away. All we can do is work with it, what do we have that we can work with and fight through. So there is some fighting in there, right? And so think about that in terms of aging, which is not a negative, doesn't have to be a bad thing. Of course, there are more illnesses and ailments that can come with our bodies as we age. Looking at how many spoons do I have each day, right? One of those spoons always needs to go to community in some form or fashion, and that does not count social media.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It can count phone calls, texts, maybe. You really need to be with people. We're designed for community. We are pack animals. And we are meant to be together. And the more support you have in your life, whether it's family or friends or support group type communities, the better you will fare mentally and then physically as well. Right, so community. So other examples of community. Book clubs, what else? Which will lean into church. Great, church, synagogue.
Some like spirit retreats.
Right.
There you go.
My neighbors.
Your neighbors. I took up, I'm kind of an adventure junkie, and it's changed through the years, but during COVID I took up horseback riding.
Oh, fun.
Nice.
And, which is why I've had more injuries last year than ever in my life. But my barn is a big, one of the reasons I love riding is because of the community that's at the barn and the other people that I've met, and then interaction with the horses, obviously, animals are important too. We could throw those into community, right? I have 2 dogs, I need those dogs, that love and affection. What else for community? Who else is part of your community?
I go to a support group for anxiety.
Yep.
Family is part of community?
Yep.
Do doctors count?
Sure. Sure. Although what I see a lot of times with seniors is that the only thing they're doing is going to doctors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we don't want that, right?
Yeah.
We do want you seeing your doctors, and yes, that is part of your support, for sure. But you need a personal engagement, whatever that looks like. Yes, grandkids. You know, even my grandmother now at 92 and with dementia, she's not really speaking too much anymore. She has quite a bit of issue with word recall. But we were all home for the holidays, and we just went over and sat with her, like you guys were talking about the gift of presence, right? It's just enjoyable for her to be around us. It's good for her to have people around her, people with her. Sometimes she won't know who we are until we get there. Usually when she sees us, she knows who we are. If we say, oh, Chad's coming over, she's like, Chad. You know, she can't recall that when he walks in, she's like, oh, hi, right? So just that gift of presence is super beneficial to her. It's what I do as a therapist with my clients who have dementia. It's just being present with them. I'm not doing therapeutic work in the sense of, they're not, like when I see a client in my private practice, they're coming in, I want to work on my relationships, I want to work on my communication, I want to decrease my anxiety. When I'm working with my seniors, I'm doing clinical work, I'm assessing, I'm checking in on them. They're just enjoying the company. Right? And that's beneficial to them. Therapeutically beneficial even. So community. And then the next one is mobility. So I love that you said you keep your body fit. I try to do the same thing. I don't know if this is true for all of you. We've talked about this on our call, but at 28 my body changed completely and I just started gaining weight and sort of never stopped. Right? And so I have had to switch my mindset from working out because I want to lose weight or because I want to be a specific number or whatever, to working out for me means being healthy and fit. Healthy and strong. So when I'm sitting on the rower and I'm dying, I'm telling myself healthy and strong, right? That's why I work out now. When I was 25, I worked out because I wanted to be skinny, right? I don't work out for that reason anymore. Yes, I'd love to be skinny, but it's never gonna happen. So I'm just gonna let that go and work out to be strong and healthy, right? As strong and as healthy as I can be. Healthy enough to do all the things I wanna do,
Yes.
right? That's my goal. That's my goal. And if that changes, then I have to shift, right? I have to figure out what can I do instead. So I had rotator cuff surgery in January last year, so no intense working out, right? So I did a lot of sitting, obviously, for the first couple of weeks. And then once I got back into the gym, I started taking cycling classes, spin classes, which I have always called death by cycling and have always hated. But it was spin classes. I like, if I can do high impact, I want to do high impact for as long as I can. I had, okay, here we go. I'm gonna do spin classes. It's the only thing I can do for the next 4 months. I'm not getting anywhere near strength training for 4 months. So spin classes it was. And I worked really hard to change my mindset around I hate spin classes to this feels so good for my body. I can do this thing, right? And also if I needed to slow down, I could slow down. I don't have to always work so hard that I feel like I'm gonna fall off the bike and worry about throwing up in class or something, right? So I had to make an adjustment. Now, once my shoulder healed and I could get back into the strength room, I split that back in, but now I still do cycling classes and actually I really enjoy them now, right? So it's that shifting. Now that's kind of an easy shift, like, oh, that's hard. You had to go from high impact to high impact, you know? But I'm 45, right? So I can still do that. I'm practicing this now so that when I'm 65 and there's something that I can't do anymore, that I will still know how to look for something else that I can do at that time. What does that look like? And for mobility, our second one, that can be stretching. It can be chair exercises. It's even just walking. It's even just walking with a walker. A lot of people, no, there's something.
My mom has dementia, and the number one thing that helps her the most is walking.
Yeah.
It orients her. It's the number one thing.
We're so resistant to, and I can say this because I'm 45, so I haven't been tested with this yet, but we're so resistant to a cane or a walker. And I always try to tell all my clients, it doesn't matter. As long as you're walking for as long as you can, do it. If a cane helps give you a little extra balance, right? It's your third stool leg, great. That's okay. If it's a walker, that's okay. And again, I'm not tested with how that feels yet because I'm not at that point. I haven't had to use that yet, but I'm working right now on changing my mindset around it so that when I do, I can say, it's okay. I'm still walking, right? I'm gonna do that for as long as I can. And when I can't, I'm gonna let it go and figure out what else I can do.
Bless you.
Yeah.
So mobility, what else can you think of? What does that look like for you guys now? What do you guys do for mobility, moving of your body? Any kind of moving. It doesn't have to be exercise.
Stretching.
Swim.
Stretching, swim.
Running.
Yeah.
Yoga.
Carol's yoga.
Yeah, yoga.
What did you say?
Carol's yoga.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Good. Any others?
And a lot more walking.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I just for
Get
years
outside.
and years and years made so many excuses, like I don't have a membership, I don't have to do this or whatever. But when you were talking about when she touched about touching nature each day, that has been, those two things together crosses off two of those. And I feel silly for making so many excuses for so many years.
I know. It's
And
hard.
Being
And I
outside
think
is
the
great
walking
too.
even changes your brain chemistry.
Yeah.
Those
No, they're saying
endorphins
it's
and
the number one
serotonin. I
thing
mean,
for
It's
dementia
so
and
good.
memory
Huge.
loss.
I think exercise in general, and actually being outside. Like I
Yes.
go outside even if it's like 15 degrees.
Yeah.
I just bundle up
Yeah.
because to me, as much as I can get outside, it is so good for my health.
I
Whether
agree.
it's walking or it's when I run, and the dog park.
Yes.
I have to throw that in there because the dog park is like my happy place.
Yes.
I
Yes.
love it.
Remember that certain things, depending on your limitations or whatever, I mean, working in the garden is exercise.
Yeah.
Yes.
Big
Throwing the ball
time.
Yep.
Throwing the ball in the yard for my dog is
Yes.
Just moving.
Absolutely. It's moving. Yeah, that's what I mean by
It's moving.
mobility. That's why I didn't say exercise.
Right.
It's not exercise. It's just moving in whatever capacity we can move in and accepting when that changes, which is
Mm-hmm.
so hard. Yeah.
You know, I struggle with this a lot. that I don't move enough. And I'm retired since 2017, and I mean, certainly, you know, I was babysitting the kids for, you know, Mondays and Tuesdays for a number of years, each one as they got a little older. But I know I don't move a lot, and this may be something that I need some deep psychological counseling for, because I just don't do it. And it's there, and I was a big proponent of exercising. I mean, I've always done things, and I'm at a stalemate with myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in my perspective, and you guys please jump in, I'm sure plenty of expertise in this room combined. The more we don't move, the more we don't want to move.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's momentum.
And it nourishes
It
it.
really
It
is.
is.
You
Things
gotta
in
get with the
motion stay in
momentum.
motion, things
Yeah.
at rest stay at rest. They
It's
do.
so true.
And
Mhm.
I find the same thing. So as a therapist, I sit, there are days I, you know, check my steps and I'm like, ooh, wow, we're at 3,000. It's 8 o'clock at night. Fantastic. Because my office is, you know, 2 steps from the bathroom. And
Yeah.
so I have to be really intentional about how I move and when I
That's the
move.
word right there.
Intentional.
Mhm.
Yes.
And the more you move, the more you want to move. So you
Yeah.
have to let yourself initially feel like, I don't really want to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have to be motivated. You know what? Say what you're going to say, because I'm going to find a quote that I
Oprah
like.
Winfrey way back when, I watched her all the time. When she first started thinking, she had that Tom Green or whatever Green guy. She said she would always watch these people out on Michigan Avenue jogging and smiling. She's like, I just expected to wake up and want to jog and smile or whatever.
Oh.
And she said what she learned was you do it, and by doing it, it
And you
feels
feel
good
it.
and you want to do it again.
Yeah.
And that's what does it. And so every time I don't want to move, I tell myself that it helps.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell myself,
Yeah.
okay, you don't want to right now, but when you feel good, you'll want to do it again. For me, that's where the inertia is.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was the same way as Oprah. I'm gonna get up and feel like them. No, I'm not. I gotta think it.
And everybody who does activity has days they don't want to do activity.
Yeah.
Like I look at everybody in the gym and I'll say, I know 3/4 of those people, when they got up, they didn't want to do it.
I don't wanna do it
But
I
once you get
literally
there, it's
argue
like,
with
yeah.
myself every
It's
single
true.
morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The reason I go is because I pay for my gym membership and they charge me if I skip a class. And it's part of the reason why I like that gym.
Right.
Because I think, is it worth $10 for me to sit on the couch when I know I need to get my tail to the gym
Whatever
anyway?
works.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
And that helps me. So I like this quote. I don't know who it's from. Sorry, but a big misconception is that you need to be motivated to get rolling. You don't. Research shows that motivation often follows action, not the other way around.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So in practice, you don't need to feel good to get going. You need to get going to give yourself a chance at feeling good.
Yeah.
Trying to act regardless of feeling.
Well, and I think sometimes you have an event happen to yourself and you think like, if only I would have been. For example, I'm gonna have hip surgery and I've been kind of pretty a sedentary person. I can't say I'm, you know, like go to the gym or,
Sure.
you know, I'm allergic to exercise, so I
Yes.
don't do a whole heck of a lot. So now I think about, okay, if I were had been taking better care, in better shape, weighed less, all these things I'm thinking, my recovery is gonna be easier and better and whatever. Instead of, you know, I have to go all the way up here because I've had nothing as my background
Baseline.
support, baseline, right? So I rethought about how all of that excuses of you know, why
Yeah.
I haven't, why I did and all that. And then a life-changing event like this physically has, you know, come out and I'm like, God, I wish I was 20 pounds lighter and I wish I moved more, I wish my
So-
legs were stronger, how am I gonna be? So wishing is not gonna change it, it's,
No, but be gracious with yourself because we do the best we can with what we have at the time.
Right.
And it is sometimes these kinds of life events that make that change for us, that we realize, you know what, following this procedure, I am at ground zero, and so my recovery might take longer than maybe someone else who's super fit, but also maybe not. Right? You have no idea how your body's gonna respond or how someone else's would. And so it's okay. It's okay. Be gracious with yourself that, okay, so I wasn't doing that. And what do I need to do now? What's gonna be good for me now? And how do I progress my recovery as quickly as I can without comparing it to what it would have been? Woulda, shoulda, coulda does a whole lot of nothing for us. We do the best we can with what we have at the time. And in theory, could we do better? In theory, we could do better. Right? I always use the example of I got married at 21 and my ex left at 25 and got divorced, right? So in theory, could I have chosen a better person? Clearly, right? In theory, I could have. But don't you think I would have if I could have?
Yeah.
Right, so we hold our younger selves responsible for what our older self now knows, and it's not fair.
You know better, you do better.
You know better, you do better, so it's okay, right, it's okay. There are times in our lives where we're really active and fit and we're headed for it, or we're doing a really good job walking or stretching or yoga, we're moving a lot, and sometimes that we're just not. I feel like that happened in COVID for sure,
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
right? Like I was like, oh, I'm gonna work out, I'm gonna do the online workouts. Yeah, no, I didn't do any of it. I sat on my couch and bought extra Fruit Loops. Until I realized it was gonna be a long haul, and then I was like, oh, I better do something here, right? So I cut back on the Fruit Loops, but I still sat on my couch. It's okay. Right? It's okay. So be gracious with yourself. But seek it, right? Seek out movement. And it doesn't have to be even taking an intentional walk. Just get up and walk here and there. Walk around your house. Take the stairs, park far in the parking lot, all of those kind of things that we talk about where we can intentionally move.
How important,
Mindful parking.
There you go.
oh, my God.
That's good.
How important
Yeah.
is it to find something you really like to do in terms of exercise? Because I have somebody who hates to walk,
Yeah.
but she found swimming.
Yes.
Or somebody who
Oh, I
hated to
think-
walk, and she found the right class.
Anything you can do that you enjoy for exercise, pick that first.
Yeah.
Pick that first. That's why I prefer, so when I first injured my shoulder, I couldn't work out at all. I had to wait 3 months for surgery, and I was just in pain. I was like barely functioning. And I was like, I'm gonna do whatever, no, I did nothing. I couldn't, I was in pain. I enjoy high intensity workouts. So again, right, I picked another high intensity workout that I could do once I could do it. But if I had to go do yoga, which I've had to I love yoga, love it, but I tend to, it's not as good,
It's different.
it's just different, yeah,
very
it's different.
Yeah.
And I love it for the focus and the energy and all that comes with that, but for me to as a therapist especially, I gotta burn off the crazy. In my own head and everybody else's heads, right? And so high intensity works out best for me. So I think it's absolutely important. Why would you do something that you hate?
Right.
There's so many
Right.
things that you can try that you might enjoy.
Yeah.
Try it.
But you hated the
I
spinning.
did, but now remember,
Try it.
I'm not gonna walk outside because I'm bored. I love to be outside, but walking outside is boring. I can't walk my dogs because they're not gracious to other dogs. And I wanted high intensity, and I go to the gym because they charge me if I don't show up. So I had to pick something, right, that worked for me. So I didn't like it, but I knew that I could shift my mindset because I like high intensity, and I like to push myself in that way.
Mm.
All right, last one. So community, mobility, activity, or hobbies. I would say hobbies. So in my 20s and 30s, I was a licensed skydiver. Skydiver.
Oh, boy. Sounds like high intensity.
Yeah, high intensity. So what happened for me, I told you guys I got divorced at 25, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go do all the things I never would have done as a wife and a mom in the suburbs, which is what I thought my life would look like. And so the first thing I did was jump out of a plane. And I loved it. And then I brought friends to come back, and I brought friends to come back, and then they were like, do you wanna get your license? And I was like, all right. I didn't even know that was a thing. So I pawned my wedding ring, and I bought a parachute. So I got into skydiving for about 10 years. And in that time, I got my license for scuba diving, rock climbing. I did kayaking, actually learned to do the roll in the kayak, really cool. Don't think it was good for my shoulders, but it was fun. So I tried all these really high intense things, right? Anything I could get my hands on. Tried snowboarding, that was not a good idea for me. I'm not athletic enough. But anything I can try, I'll try. However, your bodies change, right? Yeah. Things change. Life changed for me, really. And so as I started working with seniors, I thought, what am I going to do if I break a leg? Like everything I do is based on intense activity. This is not sustainable.
Yeah.
So I took up loom knitting. So I tried needle knitting. I'm like a T-Rex. It's not pretty. But the loom knitting worked, right? So I made scarves for everyone I knew. It was the only thing I could make, but I enjoyed it. It was relaxing. I tried adult coloring, which I also really enjoy. I find that really relaxing. And then a friend of mine, actually I skydive with, took up quilting, and I was like, quilting? I'm a little bit of a blanket fanatic. I have a little fetish with blankets. I'm in the store and I'm like, let's go touch them all. So I was like, oh, that sounds like it would be fun. So took a little sewing class, took a little quilt class, and now I've been quilting for, I don't know, 10 years I think I've made. 12
Wow.
quilts or something. Just a total amateur, friends and family, only squares. It's like the only, I can't do like the fancy triangles and all the things. Can't do any of that. But I thought, what am I gonna do?
It's
Right?
sustainable.
It's
Totally
sustainable.
sustainable.
It's
Totally.
sustainable. So recently I fell off my horse and broke 2 ribs. So I was not exercising and I was not horseback riding. So I've done 3 quilts in the last couple of months, right? Hobbies. You just, it doesn't matter what it is. It really doesn't. And it can be essential oils. It can be crystals. It can be anything. What else do you guys have? What else are the
Reading
things that you
or,
do?
yeah,
Reading.
reading.
Puzzles.
Scrapbooking.
Yeah.
Scrapbooking.
Puzzles.
Listening to music. Antiquing. I have a client who has developmental disabilities. He's 57, I think now, and he is able to live alone, and he does models, builds models, cars and
Yeah.
planes and models and puzzles, endlessly. It's fantastic.
I did get a kayak last year. I mean, I don't know, I mean, it's lightweight, so it's less than 50 pounds, so it's actually good for my upper body, but yeah, I was like, I always rent kayaks everywhere I go.
Love it.
And I bought it. My friends know my car now in the summer because it's on there, but yeah, it was really cool. My kids are gone, and just to be able to have that with me wherever I went,
Mhm.
it was pretty cool.
And to be outside.
And to be outside, to
Love
surf,
being in
it
the
was
water.
quiet and
Yes.
meditative, and I've been someone who's had a hard time meditating because I didn't really like being by myself,
Mm.
and you really have no choice.
Yeah.
So it really helped to learn how to be by myself.
Yes, I had to learn that in therapy too, how to be by myself. Otherwise, I never would have enjoyed quilting or any other non-team sport. So this, on the acceptance thing, I have had tested, I shared with them. I was a scuba diver, and I didn't do a ton of diving out with my dad. We got certified together, and then we did some dives together, and then I didn't dive for a while, and I went with my niece, got certified. Fun story, she was adopted by her birth family, and we got back in touch when she was like 30. So she got certified, so I was like, oh, I want to go diving with you. So we went diving, and I couldn't get down. I couldn't clear my ears. And so I got back on the boat, and they gave me some Flonase, and then I was able to go down. So I got in one dive with her, and I was like, okay, well, we'll see what happens here. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to talk to my ENT, see if I can get this situation. I've always had a hard time with my left ear clearing it. So I see my ENT, I see my doctor, we try a bunch of stuff, eventually see the ENT, he does this whole procedure, we're hoping it's gonna work. I go scuba diving this summer, I cannot clear either ear. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah.
It was so painful. I went down, we weren't in the ocean, we were in a spring. So I went down, I stayed down for a little while, the pressure was so bad because I could not clear that I just came back up and I was like, I'm done, that was it. I am a retired scuba diver. And it's okay. It's okay. I got to scuba dive.
Right.
Yeah.
Like how cool is that? Like I got to do that. I got to do it with my dad. It was actually kind of serendipitous. My first dive was in Devil's Den, Freshwater Springs in Florida with my dad. And my last dive, my mom did a discovery dive with me in Devil's Den. So I was like, this was my first dive was in Devil's Den and my last dive in Devil's Den. And I'm now a retired scuba diver. I won't dive again.
Nice.
I can't do it. My ears will not clear. I've done all the things, all the doctors, the ENT. That's okay. I love scuba diving. It's like one of my most favorite things. It's peaceful and quiet. It's like you and the breath and God and it's nature that we do not get to see on Earth, on the land.
And your oxygen tank, don't forget that.
Yes, but I
Yeah.
can't do it anymore,
Yeah.
right? So I have to let that go.
Yeah.
And then say, okay, well, what else might I like to try at another given time? What else would I like to do?
But I think that's part of what aging is saying goodbye to all those things and all those people that we loved and all those things that we could do that we couldn't want to do.
Yes.
So if you live long enough, it's like goodbye to this, goodbye to that, and there's grief in that.
There is grief in that, but it also has to be hello to what?
Right.
You gotta
Letting go of
reinvent.
something else, yeah.
You gotta
Yeah.
reinvent. What can you do now instead? Again, like my client who loved going to Cubs games, couldn't go now walking, could have still gone in a wheelchair,
Yeah.
right? What are the things that he can do? So I can't dive anymore. I still booked a trip to St. Lucia with my 3 best friends in June, right?
You can do other stuff.
I can do other
Yeah,
stuff.
funny.
Like sit on the beach.
Huh.
Luckily,
Walk the
one of my
beach.
best friend's husband is like, works for Marriott, so we got a great discount, and yeah,
There you go.
right, so, yeah, it's thinking, what are the other things that you can
So
try?
like going to what we were talking about earlier, like it's not what you do, it's who you are. You're still celebrating the essence of who you are, and that's what you're getting at. Even if we can't do the same things,
Yep.
we can still celebrate ourselves and be the same person
Yep.
in a different capacity.
Yep.
That's new for me tonight. Well, I mean, I worked in hospice, I've worked with elders, but like in terms of thinking of myself, of how to use that same energy in a different way.
I've heard
So-
people as they get older say their possibilities seem more limited.
'Cause I
And
think
they
that-
are, but then you change your possibilities. I
You
think
do,
that's.
and they are more limited. I
Yeah,
can't
I
do
mean, that
at
is true.
45 what I did at 25, right? They are more limited, and we're at a higher risk for injury too,
Yes.
right? Falling
Right.
off my horse at 45 is very different than the 12-year-old who I ride next to.
Yeah.
Right? She falls off, she's fine. I fall off, I break 2 ribs. Right, so there is a limit, but it's trying to find, again, how do you work with it? How do
My
you
mom is a
manage
family
it?
therapist and she has dementia. She's at a nursing home and she's in a wheelchair and she wheels her chair now to all the other rooms and reads them a story every day.
Oh.
Now she
love
can't
that.
give them therapy or anything.
Yeah.
She's like,
Make
I
them
just,
feel
she
good.
figured this out on her own.
Yeah.
And that for me, just, I'm hoping that I'll remember to do stuff.
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. What a strength.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought of that.
No.
Well, and it's also one of the reasons I picked horseback riding. Well, number one, I watched, of course, 13 seasons of Heartland during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So then, of course, I thought I could totally be Amy. I'm going to go horseback riding. Believe me, I have learned that is nothing like what it is. But I picked horseback riding because even when I can't ride, like I am learning to jump, which I love. But when I can't jump, I can still trail ride. And when I can't trail ride, I can still work with a horse from the ground. And when I can't work with the horse, I can still pet a horse, right? And be around a horse, which is very therapeutic. And maybe even work with my clients and horses. I don't know where that will go, right? So looking for, no, I'm not gonna be able to ride horses forever. I'm well aware of that. I might not even be able to ride horses for another year. I don't know, right? But I know that I can learn about the animal and learn about the sport and then use it in different ways. So go for the idea of reinvention. The only way any of this works is if you know this is what it is, right? It is what it is. And so how do I work with it? How do I accept it? What do I do while I'm in recovery to make life not miserable? My trainer, my horseback riding trainer, broke her leg in 2 places right before I broke my ribs. She's been out for 4 months. And I'm like, are you going crazy? Like literally not able to put weight on it, not weight bearing yet. And she's like, no, actually it's been really nice. I needed the break. And she talked about some of the things that she was doing for herself that she wouldn't normally do because she's constantly at the barn. And I thought, oh my gosh, please don't let me be out that long. I don't know if I can handle it. Right, but we do. Right, that's the truth of it. We do handle it because we have no other choice. And we either handle it miserably or we adapt. And we make changes and we say, what would bring me joy right now? What are the things that I'm able to do right now that could bring me joy? So, community, mobility, activity. Those would be my 3 lessons from my seniors.
You know, I think we also, at least for me, can learn a lot from the example of the people in our lives. We've all talked about our mothers and whatever, and Judy knows this about me. I moved my mom up here from Florida. She's in Lake Barrington Woods, which is a really high-line, community over there. She pays a small fortune to live there. She does absolutely nothing to be involved in anything there. And it's really sad, but also eye-opening for me. Because I'm thinking that's exactly the way I don't wanna be.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, I remember being younger and having different things happen from my parents, thinking that is not the parent I am gonna be.
Right, right.
For sure. Like, my mother never came and sat on my bed and said, so how does it feel to be a teenager and never get asked to prom or homecoming or anything? And never engaged like that. And I knew I was not gonna. So now I'm looking at her and looking at her inactivity, lack of community, lack of all those things that it's really, and I've watched her decline. She's been here about a year and a half now. And I've watched her depression get more, watched her have way more physical complaints.
Yep.
Her memory is, like she repeats a story to us that, and it's all because of not having interaction with other people, staying. And I see some of these other seniors almost running down the hall, I'm going to the pool, and I'm like, I'm right behind you.
Right.
So it's,
Yes.
it's
Yes.
seeing the example of people, and my father, when he was alive, complete polar opposite.
Yeah.
Complete and polar opposite.
Which, and you're looking at a micro of what I see as a macro with all the seniors that I work with, which is why I've said I have to intention this now.
Intention, good word.
I have to intention this now, because like you were talking about before, it's not gonna be easy, right? This is not an easy thing to just be like, oh, okay, I can't scuba dive anymore. Oh, okay, I can't do this anymore. Oh, okay, I can't move because I broke my rib, right? Or whatever it is. It's not easy. It has to be intentional. And taking that step back to say, okay, this is not who I want to be. What do I have to do? And what does that look like? And allowing, yes, you say goodbye to a lot of things, but you can also say hello to new things.
I think you
Is
have to
that-
have a moment of grieving.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
I was telling these
Yeah.
ladies
Yeah.
that when I was told I needed
Sure.
a hip, I started crying because it was not what I thought. I thought I
Of
was going in
course.
for a labrum repair, and I'm
Of
thinking,
course.
okay, I need my leg. It's like, no, you need a whole new hip, and I really had a difficult couple of days there, and I recognized I was grieving.
Yes.
That I'm, losing part of my body for a titanium implant,
Yeah.
and just being like, but then I reframed some thinking about it, and I have some gratitude happening that I have the medical health care that I have, and I also have the knowledge and know-how that I know I have to work hard to recover well.
Yeah.
Because another example, when my mom had her knee done, she didn't do the therapy like she should have, and here it is, she's like practically crippled from it. Oh, well, you did a bad job, my surgeon. I'm like, no, Mom, no, you didn't push yourself, you didn't do what you were supposed to do, and so it's a period of grieving where you stop and say, okay, now I can't scuba dive anymore.
Right.
Not gonna cry that it's over, I'm gonna smile that it happened. I had
Yes.
those years of scuba diving, and,
Yeah.
I had a lot of years on the track when I was in high school, and I'm gonna be happy I'm walking.
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
grateful,
Oh, yeah.
I'm still gonna be
Yeah,
walking.
that practice
and-
of gratitude
yeah.
is significant. Also, to the person next to you who talked about aging and being alone and fearing that, I think, I just want to speak to that quickly, that's what the whole community part is about. So my dad, I don't have any kids, my dad says to me, who's going to take care of you when you're old? And I'm like, I don't know, probably be an assisted living community somewhere, like trying to play games or something. Like, I'll figure it out. I'm not going to worry about it, right? Who says having kids is going to mean you're going to have someone take care of you anyway?
Can't count on that.
So true. But, so the being alone part, I think, takes intentionality to build that community around you. And it's not always easy. My dad, his wife is, long story, in Oklahoma now, he's in Florida, and so he was alone for a while, and I was like, Dad, we gotta get you connected. So he started going to a local church, and they started playing the guitar in the local church, and then he started going to the VFW hall and making a couple friends there, and he still, I would say, spends more time at home than anything else, but he has those outlets, and my brother's
Yeah.
near him, so he'll go out with my brother and his girlfriend, right? So he's not alone, even though he lives alone. And I'm sure there's times when he might feel lonely, right? But he's made an intentional decision to engage in outside community. And so I was really praising him for that. So I think that's again, it goes back to what are we gonna do about it? No one's gonna show up at our door to like hang out with us like they did when we were 8, like, can Cori come out and play? That would be nice, but what am I doing to engage in community with people and connecting? So, okay, well, thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
Very good. Yeah.